Hey everybody, it's Anthony Sica with some special guests tonight. I'm with Daniel, Daryl, Jeff. I'll be bringing them on in a minute, but before we do any of that, I'm going to show you a little trailer for tonight's review. And copyright gods be damned again. I know you're going to flag me again for this one, but tonight, 90s classics, kick-ass classic flicks. We're going to be reviewing a movie that's very near and dear to all our hearts. It's The Crow.
Devil's night is upon us again. Throw a little party, start a bunch of fires, make a little profit.
Someone's dead. They can't come back, can they?
That's what I thought. Are you referring to anyone in particular?
You know, my daddy used to say, every man's got a devil. You can't rest till you find him.
Winked at me before he jumped out a fourth-floor window like he had wings.
It's his link between the land of the living and the realm of the dead.
So kill the crow.
Call, bang, I'm dead.
The bastard devils. I felt how awful goodness. I felt how awful goodness.
All right.
We have a lot of sayings about work. Like, there's no substitute.
That was The Crow. The trailer from 1994. I don't know what you guys were doing in 1994, but again, I went and saw that the night it opened, and I'm going to give you guys the floor. But right off the bat, I'm going to say unequivocally that The Crow is in my top 5 comic book adaptation movies. Didn't say superhero, comic book, based on the writings, the art, the original story by James O'Barr, which was groundbreaking in 1989. It was a first of its kind as far as black and white independent comics, which I know a little bit about. And it spawned a whole slew of imitators doing independent comics, never as resonant as The Crow. Didn't last, but had that whole trope of revenge and supernatural and ultra-violent and sex and drugs and mayhem thrown in. The Crow, Brandon Lee's untimely death during the filming was almost complete. But of course, as lore tells you, they were bringing in stunt doubles to do the scenes that Brandon couldn't finish. And believe it or not, ahead of its time, the producers of The Crow actually used CGI involving facial technology, doing deep fakes on some scenes using footage of Brandon Lee on a double's body, which was innovative at the time and actually cost the production a large sum of money on top of an already bloated budget. a budget that was bloated because the actual production was filled with a lot of tragedy and very odd circumstance that led some to believe that this monumental, influential, kick-ass 90s film was indeed cursed. And my last statement before I toss it over to Mr. Daniel is that very reminiscent of the scene in Game of Death where his father was mistakenly killed while shooting a movie as a plot point in that film, which then was resonated later on with his actual son's accidental death in the film. But enough of that tragedy and tears. Also, folks, keep in mind, this video, this stream is not meant for children, okay? As my friend Daryl knows, this video is only meant for children over the age of 18 who will never grow up and will continue to enjoy the things that delighted them as young men and women and kids. Because guess what? Life sucks, but guess what, everybody? It can't rain all the time. My first, I want to talk to Daniel first. Daniel, I would like you to introduce yourself to those new viewers. And by the way, those new viewers, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And please hit the like button. And also join us for a chat. Tell us your views, your problems, your concerns, and your love for The Crow. Now I toss it over to my friend Daniel.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on again. Other than being your semi-regular guest at this point, I'm just a lover of things, pop culture and nerd stuff. I think you picked the perfect 180 from the last film that we did, right? So when we did Hard Target, you had myself and Daryl and Jeff on because of our martial arts knowledge. But I think this one is a fastball right over home plate for you, simply because of its guitar solos on the roof aspect of it. Because nobody knows Rockstar more than you.
And Mr. Rankin.
Yeah. So this movie is this one's an odd one for me. I want to start off by saying I love it. So don't mix words here. Being a little bit younger when this came out, I definitely was not going to the movies to see it. I was definitely too young to go see it. I discovered it later. This is going to make you guys laugh. From watching professional wreshling
Sting.
and the character Sting, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I'm like, wait, there's a movie with Sting in it, which I know is embarrassing as hell. And then go back and watch the actual movie, and then discovering the comic book after the movie and stuff like that. But yeah, after revisiting it, I just forgot, like, again, there's this huge pivot point with like the cinematography and the costume design and the set design. It's kind of like the introduction to the black leather trench coat and choker collar on the girls, and that just becomes like the standard of costumes for everything that follows, right? This is 94. By 98 you have Blade, right? Everyone's in black trench coats and choker collars, that whole goth thing. And then the Matrix, followed by the X-Men. That when they got to the X-Men, they didn't even want to put them in their colorful costumes because that trend of the black leather trench coat and choker collars was so popular. But yeah, super excited to talk about this one with you guys.
All right. Well, since Daryl looks like he could leave the broadcast at any moment again, I'm gonna jump on Daryl right there. Not literally, but figuratively. Daryl, you have. First off, introduce yourself. Tell them where they can find you online if you're still online. I know you're doing your disc golf stuff, but also while you're doing your intro, please show off some of that wonderful Crow paraphernalia and toys that you have.
Well, first off, this is you said one of your top 5 comic book movies. This is one of my top maybe 3 movies, period. Like the figures, old school figures here. Of course, you can't have one, you got to have multiple.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I do not have yet is the original movie poster, but we got a Hack Slash, the Crow variant of,
Nice.
with Brandon on it. Then the Crow #1. And then back here we got Caliber Presents with the first appearance of the Crow back
Very
here.
nice.
And just because you know what, I guess I'll show this too. As if I find it.
You have original artwork?
No, sadly I don't. But I did meet him, and
Very nice.
got some prints. Got him signed. James O'Barr. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And there's another one. Not this one. Not that one.
No.
So
Very nice.
I had to get those when I met him. Huge fan. I started mixed martial arts, and then a few weeks in, maybe a month or so in, one of my friends said, "Oh man, you got to see this movie." And I was like, he's like, Brandon Lee. I was like, he's not kin to Bruce is. He goes, yeah, it's his son. So I mean, and it hooked me right off the bat, and been a huge fan ever since. So
Right.
yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Mr. Jeff Fleet Fingers Rankin.
Hey, what's going on? So, yep, my name's Jeff.
Is that a tattoo on your arm?
It actually is, man.
It's on the other side.
Yeah, this thing.
Wow, look at that.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah.
Is that real, or did you draw that earlier?
No, you make it wet and you pull it off. No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's real. I just got it a couple days ago.
All right. Very nice. Okay.
Thanks, man.
That's you've been de-virginized.
Now I have a taste of it.
Okay.
I want to get the other arm now. So.
Well, you need to get a tramp stamp to match that.
Oh God.
Oh, I got that. That was my first one.
And since that's a lion on your arm, that's a lion on your arm, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Did you get that for Pride Month?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's a white lion reference. In fact, I'm going to continue the white lion reference. If you get a tramp stamp, it could be a Mike tramp stamp.
I wanted to say white lion right across the back,
Okay. I think that's kind of racist, but go ahead. Continue.
Anyway, well, this is the second time I've been on with you guys. First one was a lot of fun. Hard Target. Played music with Anthony over a number of years. Became very good friends, and
waiting to make some more.
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
Yes, and
but he's too busy getting tattoos.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of martial arts for a long period of time. I've loved his dad, his movies. I grew up on those. I started being raised in Okinawa, so my father was an instructor and trained a lot over there. And he would take me to the cinema to go see Bruce Lee movies. Well, I just loved everything about Bruce Lee, and it's just, I've seen all the movies. I watched all the interviews. I thought he was like, the next thing to God, up there. So when I found out about his son, Brandon Lee, when he was releasing movies, like all the way back in the day with Legacy of Rage, that was his first Hong Kong appearance, and that he was being taught by Daniel Inosanto with the Jeet Kune Do theory and system. I was just like, oh, I gotta watch all these movies. So when The Crow came out, it was like his first real serious role. And I was like, what was this going to be like? And what was real to me, what was interesting at the time, because it was such a shift. I mean, you definitely remember this, Anthony, is like there was a shift in music, like 93, 94, metal was kind of moving out. You had the industrial electronica type of music that was coming in, which definitely was portrayed a lot in this movie. Even like the title track with The Cure, I think was a little bit different for them for that new wave style, that they kind of went that industrial factory kind of music. But going to like what was it Gerald was saying, about the black trench coats, and it was just that whole darkness that really kind of really drew me in. But I saw it on theater night as well, and then I bought every single copy that I'd ever run across, like whether it be DVD or CD, CDs, because I like the actual original soundtrack, or the tons of VHSs, right? So I think at that time when it came out, it was first just VHS, where you would go to the movie gallery or something and go pick that up, if anybody remembers what those are. But yeah, I've been a huge fan of the movie. I actually was a fan of it before I even knew about the comic with the James Barr comics. So I actually started the movie first, then went to go read the comic book, which is much different than the movie. But I was a huge fan of the story because I thought that it was just amazingly well written. I think what they did in the movie was incredible. So when you talk about the top 3 lists, I may not have a whole lot of memorabilia, but, you know, I have all kinds of like little pictures and frames, you know, representing the Crow, and have standalone ones as well. But it's in my top 3 movies of all time. Probably, if I had to think about it really tough, yeah, probably number 2, number 3 for sure.
Did you pick the name for your son?
Actually, yeah. My son's name, Brandon, his full name is Brandon Sebastian Rankin. Brandon, because was just incredibly a huge fan. His first name was from Brandon Lee.
Right.
And, you know, Sebastian was Sebastian Bach. 2 of the people I thought were some of the most influencing people in my life. One, just because of Brandon Lee, of how he is, and his personality being dynamic, not exactly the smartest crown in the box when it came to school, but he was super intelligent and philosophical like his father, and him like challenging, wanting to go a completely different route than his dad. And I just think his story is absolutely amazing, kind of traversing it on a different path, trying to create his own name, his own brand.
What was the movie he made with Dolph Lundgren?
Dolph
Showdown in
Lundgren.
Little Tokyo.
Yep, Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Okay.
With the Yakuza. What was it? They were doing ice or whatever with that drug back in the day.
Right. Well, so your son was named after or named Brandon for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
My second marriage, I was actually married on Devil's Night. I have the original VHS that I got when it came out.
That's awesome.
And that's the way I watch it. Old school or no school. That's the way I dig it. The Crow, like everybody stated, or The Crow is very different from O'Barr's comics. However, let's talk about The Crow. Let's not compare it to the comics. Let's stop talking about our personal relationship with The Crow. Let's just kind of really break down and give a review of what impressed us about The Crow, making some detailed descriptions of some of the scenes, some of the things that, like we've all stated, the Matrix, the Hot Topic was pretty much born from The Crow. There would be no Hot Topic if it wasn't for The Crow in 1994. There would be that style that was continued through Blade and The Matrix. And by the way, The Crow was one of the first, from a cinematography viewpoint, The Crow was one of the first desaturated movies. And for anybody watching that doesn't know, that's what filmmakers like Zack Snyder, he comes up a lot in our commentary, but people that darken film and purposely take the saturation, which the saturation is the level of brightness that comes through natural film. The desaturation is purposely creating effects to make the movie seem darker than it is. And of course, the source material being all black and white, being very sinister. And you can even see it in the box. You know, this is desaturation. The detail, the definition is taken out of the film and desaturized to the point that it just fucking looks cool. And that's the whole vibe. We wanted a dark, industrial, probably the first gothic superhero, if you don't count iconic people like Vampirella, like the Munsters, all that shit. but really supernatural, gothic tale of revenge. I'm going to start out. I want to get some commentary on The Crow by the person that has seen it most recent in his life, and that would be Daniel, because Daniel is considerably younger than the other three on the panel. And I want to get a perspective of someone who actually came across it, as he stated, through seeing Sting on wrestling, and then reverse engineering, falling into the Crow movie, and then discovering that it was a comic book, and being a comic book fan like you are. I want your impressions. Give us a elevator pitch about why you love the movie, what impresses you about the movie, villains, heroes, sympathetic characters like Ernie Hudson, Sergeant. We have Sarah, who is actually not in. Sarah is not really in the film. In the book, at least the volumes I have. So there are things that were purposely put in the movie to make a good movie adaptation. Sarah, Sergeant, played by Ernie Hudson. In the book, there was a detective. He wasn't a beat cop. He was behind the desk. And also dialogue. I believe from watching the movie several times, some of the only dialogue that exists is the stuff in the pawn shop. And then later on, when he goes in the pawn shop, the whole line about if Jesus walks into a hotel with 3 nails and said, "Would you put me up for the night?" Most of the book, the dialogue didn't make it in the movie, but that particular line did, that joke, and some other things that were here and there. But the book was very, very different. The movie was very, very dynamic. And I just want to get the youngsters' opinion on the movie and what impresses them most about the action, the heroes, the villains, etc.
Oh, the youngster, that's too funny. So what was funny, kind of, you say reverse engineering this, with all the different comic books and entertainment that I've consumed. The first thing I kind of noticed, and going back and reading the comic and watching the movie, is, essentially James O'Barr was kind of doing his independent character version of The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, right? Dark, gritty, big revenge plot. And it almost seemed like when the movie came out in 1994, that's a year after Batman Returns, which kind of had that same desaturated, dark, gritty feel, not so much now when you go and revisit it. So it's almost kind of like the creative team on the film side went back and said, how can we Batman this up some more? Kind of riding those coattails of what Tim Burton had done. And, you have the flaming crow signal at one point, right? And you have Ernie Hudson's character, Albrecht, running around, pretty much doing the James Gordon work, right? He could be pals with them. But then they add in the tropes of, like, him disappearing mid-sentence, the way he kind of hides in the shadows and takes down the bad guys in that super cool scene where he breaks up the little mobster meeting. But none of that really detracts from the movie. Like, I love Batman, right? So obviously that just makes it that much better, right? It's a grittier, undead Batman that's willing to kill. But all of that mixed with, like, the amazing casting of this movie. I mean, every single actor. And a lot of them weren't even the original choices. I don't know how much you guys, dove into it, but the original choice for The Crow, Eric Draven, Johnny Depp was on a short list for that. And boy, that would have been a different movie. But I don't know that it would have been a worse movie because Johnny Depp had acted his ass off too. And you're talking like a much younger and different style of Johnny Depp. But, and then you have Top Dollar, which was Michael Wincott, which that guy can play the shit out of a villain. everything that I remember seeing him in, even the Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner and the Count of Monte Cristo, with Guy Pearce and all that. He is just gnarly and sinister in every one of those villain roles, and I thought he killed it in this movie. And it's such a widely different character than the book. I don't think Top Dollar really gets as much attention in the book as he does in the movie.
Top Dollar was pretty much a junkie at a pool table.
Yeah.
At a gambling table, and he got killed right away. And don't forget his incestuous relationship with his sister, who of course wasn't in the book at all. But Bai Ling, very early movie appearance for her, and she pretty much plays a psycho in every movie she's in, and I think in real life is pretty kooky. But that had a great, especially when the whole thing about the souls and the eyes, and all that shit. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, and then one of my favorite castings, T-Bird was they originally were trying to get Iggy Pop for that role, but I think David Patrick Kelly was awesome. A little bit older than when the baby-faced version of him in the Warriors. Would have been awesome to kind of see him slip one of those Warrior lines in there, or at least put some bottles on his fingers. But yeah, he was awesome as T-Bird, the junkie and stuff like that. But I think you talk about adaptation of the comic book. I think the spot on was Gideon. John Polito as Gideon was like perfect. It was almost right out of the book verbatim. Yeah. As far as his appearance and stuff like that.
His appearance and the dialogue was pretty much the same also.
Yeah. And he is such a great character actor playing that like scuzzball character. And I know sometimes he's the cop, and in this case he was the sleazeball pawn shop owner. But
he lived a lot longer in the movie than he did in the comic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he doesn't make it out of the pawn shop in the
No, he doesn't. Comic. He doesn't make it past 3 pages in the comic, actually.
Yeah, but he has that great scene, with Top Dollar later in the movie, which definitely was worth it. But yeah, so I actually had a question for Jeff as the resident musician. You mentioned the soundtrack to this. Which version of the Dead Soul song do you like better? Do you like the original Joy Division, or do you like the 9 Inch Nails version?
I like Joy Division.
Yeah, the right answer. I figured that was what it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit of movie trivia, soundtrack trivia.
All right, who wants to go next? How about you, Daryl?
I mean, there's so many of the things that you just mentioned. I totally echo. Rochelle Davis as Sarah, to me, such a heartbreaking character. Actually, person really for me, because this is a movie that after this movie she didn't act again for over 20 years. I think she just did something a couple years ago, and then something last year. I mean, she was only 13, 14 at the time, and Brandon really seemed to be like a role model for her. The lady actually playing his wife in the movie, she was only in it for, it was just a few minutes. Kind of felt bad for her as well, just being an actress there. So I felt bad for that. The lines in it, the one-liners, so many great, memorable lines for me. Skank, I love Skank, played by, was it Angel David, I believe I wrote down. I really liked him. I like it's just the way he was in the movie. The one line that Top Dollar had, we need to record this and play it back in slow motion.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like, fantastic. That is such a great line.
Fantastic.
But I mean, really, so much of what has been said, and the fact that in this movie, Brandon Lee, a mixed martial artist, maybe not fighting, but very talented. I know Dan Inosanto was mentioned earlier that he trained with him. From what I have been told, okay, now this is some of the people that I used to train with way back in the day, out of Virginia Beach, sparred with Brandon. And rumor has it, when he went to get his mixed martial arts black belt, he actually got knocked out a couple times. But he kept going and got that black belt, which to me, stud thing to do. And his just pure charisma, Brandon Lee, jumps off the screen between this movie and, for me, Rapid Fire, which I absolutely love. I don't know what else to say about it that hasn't been said, but he, to me, is just, gosh, I think he would have been, I'm not going to say where The Rock is now, but I think he would have been huge, 10 years later, 15 years later, as his acting got better and better. And through the first few movies, you could see his acting ability go up and up and up. So just watching Brandon, the one-liners, the great characters that are in the movie. I mean, to me, it's top notch. I don't think there's anything perfect, but for me, this is pretty doggone close. So I don't know what else to say because you've already mentioned all the great characters. So let's go from there.
All right. Well, we're going to go to Mr. Jeff Rankin again on the Hollywood Squares. He's going to give his 2 cents about the movie itself.
The movie itself, like, amazing, just absolutely amazing. When I watch a movie, it's about, when I'm sitting there, how much of this is wasted film, how much is wasted dialogue. You know, you have a lot of these movies, you know, the 2-3 hours long, right? And then there might be maybe only 40 minutes worth of actual good footage. One thing that I saw in this movie is, like, if you right when it begins, there's no wasted film. Every scene, everything that's transpiring through the film has some sort of mark, whether it's the crow pecking on the tombstone, and then you see Brandon coming out of the ground, right? I mean, it was like each moment with him coming out of that ground, pulling out like from the dead after, you know, just visualizing his girl, his fiance being just brutally taken, raped, and just everything beaten, right? I mean, he just comes with this revenge, and you just see his face, and the sounds and the noises that he makes is like, you could feel that. There's no wasted film. And when a movie starts off like that, and you get that attached to a character right out of the gate, it like almost brings you into it. It's like, you almost think that the damn thing's like real, right? You're like, what would I be like? What would I go through if I had to experience anything like that? I couldn't even imagine the trauma that it was. And to be thrown off of what was that? I forgot how big the building was, but it was like, 6-10 stories or something like that. Just throwing them through the window. The way that they did that scene when they threw him through the window, that slow motion with the shattered glass, and you just watching him go down. Again, no wasted film, and the dialogue was like short, right? Like when you what was the officer's name that was running around helping with Sarah and all the time? What was his name?
It's Sergeant Albright. Ernie Hudson.
Like when Albright, when he was in there and he's like, you know, doing the investigation in the room, a lot of times you'll see a whole bunch of people in some footage. Sometimes you're like, oh, what the heck are these people doing? It seemed intense in that room with the security people and Albright in there, and then his, you know, the superior coming through. He's like, what the hell is going on around here? Like all those parts, you're just like, wow, this is like super intense. And then you know, Sarah's skating, you know, down the streets, and it's raining all the time. And you have like those one-liners. It can't rain all the time, like when Brandon Lee stopped her from getting hit by a car and stuff. Not that I'm trying to go through a scene cut of the whole movie, but where I'm kind of like just trying to say is that, you know, no matter where you are in this movie, you are just entrenched in the scenes. Like Tintin, you know, I mean, that scene and with the drug overdose and the way he just grabs her arm and brings out the drugs, you know, what was that? Something about on the lips of the mother or something, but basically Sarah's out there and she gets all the,
that's actually Fun Boy.
Fun Boy, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Tintin's the knife guy played by Lawrence Mason.
Right. Yeah, Fun Boy, that's what it was. You know, each one of those scenes, like when he came through and with the whole light bulb, it's just like literally no wasted film. You're like, wow, this guy's like crazy and intense. and the one-liners were just one after the next throughout the entire movie. So what's my views of it? Absolutely love the movie. I've watched it a million times, but there's one version, I don't know if you guys know, that you probably do, but they were supposed to like have like the skeleton creature that was in the comic, that was talking to him.
The skeleton cowboy.
Yeah. They actually filmed, what the heck was his name? He was all deformed looking. Oh my gosh. There was an actor that actually filmed. He was pretty popular.
Yeah, it was the guy from The Hills Have Eyes.
Yes.
And from the Motley Crue Smoking in the Boys Room video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually did all the film. They were supposed to release that with his parts in there. How much of a different film would that have been with
that?
us?
That actor's name is Michael Berryman, by the way.
Okay.
That's the gentleman with the weird shaped head.
Yes.
And I believe, I don't know if he was in Goonies, but
no.
That's what he looks like.
Just like the guy from Goonies, right?
Smoking in the boys' room.
That was John Matuszak, a football player.
Everybody who's under the age of 40 or 50, go look up Smoking in the Boys' Room video by Motley Crue. You'll see him on the yacht with a wig on his egg-shaped head.
That would have just been intense to see that, So I know it's been a lot of years, but I would love to see them put that footage together and see what it would have turned out like.
Yep.
What's funny too, do you know why Ernie Hudson was so good with Eric Draven in the movie? And you know why he didn't you notice when he showed up at his apartment? First of all, when I saw it in the theater, I was like, why is he in his underwear but still has his police hat on? And the fact that Eric asked him why he had the hat on was fantastic. Just fucking fantastic. But can I tell you the real reason Ernie Hudson wasn't so scared of Eric Draven? Because he ain't afraid of no ghosts. But in reality, and you guys, let's talking about the you guys haven't said anything that I wouldn't say, echoing my sentiments about the movie. But what I will say is that I did see it on the night it opened, and I was so juiced by the trailer that I just showed, which was the coming soon, the actual theatrical trailer, when we actually used to see trailers. Hey, kids, we didn't see trailers on YouTube. We saw them on the TV. We didn't have YouTube. We had the TV. And you couldn't rewind it either and watch it again in slow motion. We had to watch it in real time or catch it when it was on. And that, Daniel, to your point, it was a Batman ripoff. But the cool thing is it was better than Batman because the thing that makes everything better than Batman, as iconic as Batman is Batman doesn't kill anybody. Right. And when you want true revenge, you do want to kill people. However, let's make another Batman reference there. Let's face it, Eric Draven's makeup does resemble the Joker. So you have that whole thing. And then since then, not only the wrestler Sting, but there's been 8 million. In fact, one of my favorite indie creators, Everett Hartsoe, his Razor female character has similar makeup to Eric Draven in The Crow. And The Crow and James O'Barr is one of his main influences that got him into the business literally 2 years after O'Barr's Crow came out. The thing is, a lot of folks, I want to talk about real quick, the idea that the apartment scene, the actual scene of Eric Draven being killed, that is actually the shot when I think it's Fun Boy that shoots him in that scene with that 38, that Colt. That is actually the scene where he dies. All those other scenes, and of course, by the way, for those who engage in rumors or folklore or tall tales, the footage of Brandon Lee getting shot is not in the movie at all. None of it was ever used. There's not a frame of it in the film. Brandon Lee also died 24 hours later from that gunshot wound. It wasn't instantaneous. He didn't die on set, but unfortunately, because of the way it was set up, as the producers have said, it took a while for people to realize what had happened, because it was when he wasn't moving and he was bleeding out all over the floor of the apartment is when that happened. The apartment scene, the whole murder, rape scene, all that was the whole scene of the apartment was rewritten because of the death, and the entire scene was remade using computer graphics from earlier scenes that Lee had done. And like I did state earlier, which is fact, it was the first instances in cinema when they actually used superimposed imagery of someone's face on a body double. And they did that on several scenes. Every time they did the scenes that went back to the apartment during the shooting, that's what that was. And there was $8 million thrown up from Miramax, who wanted the film completed. Paramount had done the film, and Miramax gave another $8 million to finish it after Lee's death. But with all that said, all you guys who watch movies in the year 2021 and 2020 and 2019, we hear about budgets that cost, I don't know, $200 million for your latest Marvel movie or Disney film. And then a low budget movie that made $1 billion, like The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, that was made for what was called a very, very, very lean $50 million. And I believe even Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie, was made for under 40 million or 30 million. This movie, with as groundbreaking is, with all the problems with the accidental death, was made for $23 million. In 1994, that was actually a pretty big budget for an unknown franchise. However, as we've all stated, it's groundbreaking in many ways. And I am just going to say my favorite scene in the entire film was the pawn shop scene. The pawn shop scene to me was the closest reenactment of the comic book, first. Secondly, I love the line about the guy, Jesus walks into a motel with 3 nails and says, "Can you put me up for the night?" That is the most sinister joke I've ever heard and is fucking hilarious. And C, the idea that the only reason he went there was to get the ring. And then the coup de grace, which was not in the comic book, is him shoving all the rings into the shotgun, I believe, and then firing it. That was fantastic, both visually, symbolically, and just the whole thing was fantastic. I mean, that was just, and I actually like, and one of my other favorite scenes, to be honest with you, is his first kill, Tintin in the alleyway. That was very nice because it was super gratifying because of the amount of times he was stabbed. The shot of him catching the knife, which was one of the, we've seen that in 1,000 movies, but that was one of the first times I remember seeing it. And I love the way the cinematographer did it profile.
Yep.
So that it was so, in your face in the camera, and it looked real, whether it wasn't or not, it looked real. And then the actual fact that he killed him with his own knives and then stabbed him 123 times or something like that. And
in every organ alphabetically.
Right. That's right. And also the idea, that's right. Every organ alphabetically was fantastic. And also, I don't know how the forensic person determined that. So
that's
quickly,
what I was thinking too.
But I also really dug it because of the way Tintin was bragging about banging Shelley, about raping Shelley. That made it poignant, and it made it cathartic for the viewer, because, you know, revenge movies are usually kind of grimy and dirty, and this one was very grimy and dirty.
Yep.
It's actually, and also the idea that the producers focused on the rape a lot. The rape was actually more disturbing to me seeing the movie than the murder, because everybody gets murdered, but the fact that she was getting raped in front of him, you know, and all that shit, and they took turns, and then the fact that him putting the pain, you know, of all those hours of suffering in Top Dollar at the end, you know, things like that. The movie emotionally was cathartic. I also happen to like the relationship, which again wasn't in the comic, between Sarah and her mother, Darla. Darla was a nice, a weird barfly, pseudo prostitute thing, going out. And the thing is, when he pulled, I don't know about you guys, but that scene when he pulled the heroin or the drugs,
That was morphine.
the morphine,
Yeah.
and you saw the morphine come out of her like Wolverine, expelling bullets. That was like powerful, and the supernatural thing was really poignant for that. I did like how in the movie he lost his powers, of course, because he enacted all his revenge. So there was no reason for him to have these supernatural powers of immortality anymore, which, by the way, was very tongue-in-cheek, joking with, you know, with the Sarge in the cathedral. And, you know, and also the flair of, okay, we have a Gothic story, so we're going to end it in a Gothic cathedral, church, whatever you want. The actual comic book was set in Detroit. I don't know what city they were supposed to be in. Maybe it was Crowville. Maybe it was Draventown. I don't think they ever mentioned where they were. We had no idea. Maybe they were in Gotham Central. I don't know. Maybe they were in Bloodhaven. I'm not sure. But that was good. The little town that only really had 4 blocks to it. It was still a good setting. But again, the comic is set in Detroit. And you could see that in all the signage on the streets and the newspaper holders and all that. The one thing that I didn't like, you want to know what negatively I hated about the movie? At the very end of the movie, the scene where the crow is flying away looks like it was done like in a basement. Why the whole movie looks good and the last scene looks like shit, I don't know. And here's the cool thing about the movie. The best thing about the movie, done in 1994, so I'm bad at math. What is that, 31 years ago? No, what is 36 years? Anyways, a long time ago. 1994. I've had too many beers on Taco Tuesday, so I can't do the math. But anyway, it was 30 years ago, approximately. My point is, my son, when I rewatched it over the weekend, my son, who I bring up, is 11, and who, like, when he sees night movies from the 90s and the 80s, he just shakes his head and rolls his eyes because they look so bad. This movie holds up because when the first scene came on, he sat down on the couch and he didn't move until the movie was over. And he really liked it. And for, you know, and that's what I'm saying is for a movie audience who is the same way they're conditioned to hear music and the same way they're conditioned for YouTube videos and everything else, younger generations, Generation Z, can watch this movie and it still holds up with movies that you see today. In fact, now that he's a little older, he's 12 now, he just turned 12, he realized that he actually liked it a little bit more because the realization was it didn't look so PlayStation video game like. And it also, he understood that a lot of the effects, especially the fight with all the mob bosses and Top Dollar and his crazy sister, that whole scene sliding under the table and jumping on top of the table with the 1,000 Uzis, all that stuff was practical effects, practical filmmaking, practical everything. And just like we talked about last week when we were talking about a hard target, the real movie magic is most evident when there was no magic, when it was actually lighting and sound people and cinematography and, all the folks involved in making these movies, they should be applauded. And by the way, the screenwriter too, I don't know the screenwriter's name, but whoever did the script was fantastic. It was a fantastic script. And like Jeff pointed out, there was no wasted time on the screen. There was nothing that you sat back and was like, oh, I'm going to go get my popcorn now, or I'm going to go pee now, or whatever. The movie was efficient efficient action. And, the VHS, I mean, when this came out on VHS, I must have got this at Blockbuster or Suncoast Video or Peaches or whatever the fuck was. Oh, you know where I got this? I got this at Turtles in St. Augustine. Anybody remember Turtles in Florida? They used to sell VHS and DVDs and CDs. Spectacular, thrilling, action-packed to triumph. And then on the back, look at that, Daniel. The best movie of its kind since the original Batman.
That's hilarious.
Now, Chicago Tribune said that. And also adult, because see this, A Triumph, that's Playboy magazine. Rated R, of course, and suitably rated R. But again, a lot of kids dug it. A lot of kids, again, found themselves shopping at Hot Topic in the late 90s. And think about it. Can you imagine? Do you know there might not have been Jinko jeans and Corn and all the Limp Bizkit and Sick Puppy and all that shit if it wasn't for The Crow? I don't know, man.
Actually, all of a sudden, I don't like this movie as much.
Actually, I think Sick Puppy was around before that. But the point is, influential movie. The four of us all dig it. And other than that last frame of the movie, I found nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna keep everybody's screen open and just do a round table. The sequels were terrible. Iggy Pop was in, I believe, the second film. I think Henry Rollins was in one of them. It was like, let's get as many punk guys as we can in the movie. And
Iggy Pop, I realized I messed up earlier. Iggy Pop was actually supposed to be Fun Boy, which actually makes more sense, with the whole heroin and the long hair and stuff like that.
And Iggy Pop was, I believe, in the second movie. The movies had like Eric Furlong in it and Kirsten Dunst, and did just one bad movie after another.
Right.
They've been trying to reboot it. And again, this is why they talk about the Crow curse.
Yeah.
3 years ago, Jason Momoa actually posted a picture with the director of the first Crow, who, again, I don't know the person that made the movie's name, but he actually posed with a picture in Crow makeup with all the makeup on and was excited because he was signed on to do the Crow. Since then, that has all fallen apart.
Thankfully.
And all the sequels were terrible. But that leads me to my next question. I'm going to start with Jeff Rankin. Jeff, what would have happened if Brandon Lee survived? Would The Crow be the cult classic that it is? What do you think? Use your crystal ball. Use your powers of creating alternate timelines, and tell me what would have happened with the Crow franchise and Brandon Lee's career.
So Brandon Lee was wanting to take on more serious roles when he was coming into this, when he got the role as the Crow. And you saw him actually really putting out his acting abilities more in this role. He said he didn't want to follow in the same steps as his dad. just being known as a martial artist. I believe that he probably would not have done another one. I believe he probably would have continued on doing some other more dramatic roles. Everybody says they're going to try to get out of the action movie business. We've heard Jet Li say it. We've heard Jackie Chan say it. But what are they doing? Still action movies, right? So, but I think I think maybe the franchise would have had an opportunity to keep on going if they would have followed that same kind of light. The second movie had possibility. It could have been a good movie. The way that Iggy Pop acts sucked really bad in that movie, along with a number of other characters, right? But it had opportunity. But the guy that they chose as a leading role, I think what they done was they tried, because Brandon Lee passed away. If they would have not have tried to replicate somebody that was already here on this planet that has moved on, it maybe would have had a chance of success. But they tried so hard to make that character look like Brandon Lee, have the same feel as Brandon Lee, and it didn't work, because what we wanted was Brandon Lee, and you're not going to get it. The guy moved on. So, I think that was the demise of it, them just trying so hard to try to create a character that already was. And then with the other ones after that, first of all, why are you going to get the what's his face from Terminator? Who was the one that played the kid in the second Terminator, Judgment Day?
Yeah, Eric Furlong.
Yeah, I mean that was the worst.
Can I tell you what's really bad about that? He was not in the third movie. He was in Crow 4. They made 4 movies. Crow 3 was Eric Mabius, who is totally nobody. Kirsten Dunst, Fred Ward, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. Crow 4 starred Edward Furlong and Tara Reid. So
Tara Reid, that's right. She was horrific in that movie.
David Boreanaz from Angel was in it. Danny Trejo was in it.
Oh.
And by the way, Dennis Hopper was in it. What the fuck?
Wow.
And Emmanuelle Chikri, who people know from she's on Superman and Lois now, and she was on The Entourage, the main chick in The Entourage. But yeah, Edward Furlong and Tara Reid were the star of The Crow 4. It was called A Wicked Prayer. I am going to tempt fate and hit The Crow 5, and nope, there was no Crow 5. Thank God.
Don't you see some similarities though with Kill Bill, with the church scene and the fourth Crow?
Yeah. Yep.
Except Kill Bill was successful.
Yeah. Well, Kill Bill was Kill Bill based on a poem called The Bride, was an original idea. And The Crow, even though it ripped off Batman here and there, The Crow was an original idea. James O'Barr's book, Volume 1 at least, of The Crow, doesn't really steal from Batman. The movie itself stole from Batman, and like Daniel was saying, or whoever mentioned that Johnny Depp was originally going to be it, that would have been atrocious, because it would have had a Tim Burton. It would have had even more of a Tim Burton feel, and that would have been terrible. So, the thing is The Crow, the original black and white indie comic, was very original, was a lot more gritty. The movie, as we stated, was a lot more sensational, and by the way, more dynamic. I mean, it's if I was to never read the book and just see the movie, I much prefer the movie over the book. The villains are more fleshed out. They are in the Crow novel and in the Crow indie book. The villains are really not villains. They're just drug addicts and rapists. In the Crow movie, the villains, just like the villains in Hard Target we spoke about last week, are truly cool characters, even though they're disgusting and depraved. Even the pawn shop, Gideon, his character had a lot more screen time in the film than the 3 pages that he survived in the book. But you know, it's good shit. I'm gonna go to you guys. I'm sorry I jumped in there, but I think, you know, when we talked about all those sequels, I just think the potential I had to say about if Brandon had survived, the cool action movies that we've seen over the last 30 years that he could have been in, like imagine that, dig if you will this picture, guys. Imagine Brandon Lee starring in a Daredevil movie. Like, instead of that Affleck movie, which, by the way, I'm a fan of that Daredevil Affleck movie. But the point is, imagine Brandon Lee in that movie. Or imagine Brandon Lee in The Matrix. Or imagine Brandon Lee in, I don't know.
How about Mission Impossible?
Imagine Brandon Lee playing the Green Lantern a few years ago. Or in some Marvel movie, because Brandon Lee probably be about, and you know what's sad is Brandon Lee's probably about, if he was alive, he'd be like 56 years old right now, because I believe he was a few years older than we are. You know, but he would be, imagine Brandon Lee now being like in a Marvel movie or whatever. However, so much of those movies are informed by what he did in that film. There's a lot of Deadpool in The Crow, you know, mannerism, and, you know, just, but also, you know what? There's a lot of Edward Scissorhands in The Crow because they both wearing the same outfit. You know, they both really looked like the singer from The Cure. You know, it's really what it was. Robert Smith, you know, but I got to ask real quick before we move on to Daniel.
I'm going to be selling my figures now that you just said that.
I know. I want Daniel, I want your prediction of where you see the movie industry with Brandon Lee in it in a second, but I got to ask Jeff a question. Jeff, those guitar scenes on the roof with the amp, what was that amp plugged into? Was there any extension cords or plugs out there?
There was absolutely no plugs up there.
He never tuned that guitar really.
Just was jamming.
He was just jamming.
Okay.
And
I want to mention something about this scene. There is rumors going around that was Eddie Van Halen playing the guitar on the roof.
I really doubt that.
I've heard for years, and then they said that he loved Brandon. And
really?
He was a huge fan.
I've never seen that in print or in video.
Actually, I looked it up today because I wanted to know who played the guitar.
Yeah.
And there's been rumors that it was him, that it was Eddie Van Halen that did that.
Well, it was really Jeff Rankin that did it.
Wait, there he is.
And Jeff played a lot better than what you heard. And hey, what was the name of the band? Hangman's Joke?
Hangman's Joke.
How was it that in 1994 that Hangman's Joke had a vinyl record? I'm just curious. And if they were a big band with a vinyl record on the radio, how come he was living in that shitty apartment? Oh, and I got to ask a question. What the fuck? How is that cat still alive a year later? What was that cat eating? Rats and stuff? What was going on with that cat? That cat was abused.
I was wondering that myself.
Why did none of the police take that cat? And why was there police tape still on the door a year later? And why was all the stuff still in the apartment?
And why was Albright allowed to smoke at every crime scene?
Because it was 1994, Dan.
Yeah, and smoking in the police station.
Like this.
And also,
that bug was there.
Am I wrong, or did he have candles, or were there actually lights in the apartment? Did he elect
lights and candles?
Did he elect? Okay, just check.
They were scented.
Oh, okay.
It was the same thing that was powering that amp.
That's
Ghost power.
Yeah, what was power? Yeah, because I don't think the electric company kept the electric running a year later.
The random set dressings in this movie are incredible.
Yes.
Like aside from, like the guitar solo on the rooftop, but when they go into Albricht's apartment and he has a random basketball and saxophone sitting on the couch.
I saw the basketball. I didn't even notice the saxophone.
Or it might even have been a trombone or something. I don't know.
I think it was a French horn, wasn't it? I think he was he was picking up hobbies because he was divorced or something.
Right, right. But yeah, the random set dressings were cracking me up.
So Daniel, where do you see Brandon Lee? He survives the movie. What happens? Does he make a Crow sequel? Does he go on to star in Godfather 4?
I think that the Crow it's lightning in a bottle. I think it has a beginning, a middle, and end. It has your perfect 3-act structure. There's no reason to continue, right? The whole thing is the vendetta against the guys that did him wrong. I see if you wanted to do, the reboot or whatever you say with, Jason Momoa, which, is kind of a big guy compared to the character as he's drawn in the comic. I think, maybe you kind of do like, Dr. Sleep did with The Shining, right? You kind of retcon the original story to be more like the comic book, but you tell a different adaptation, 10 years later, what have you. But I don't see sequels and I don't see reboots in the near future for it. Like I said, I really think this movie, this story is lightning in a bottle. It's leave it the way it is and enjoy it. Not everything needs to be revisited, remade, sequelized, updated. Like you said, your son enjoyed it, and and the age gap between the two of you and when the movie came out, like, it holds on its own.
Are we all back on?
Yeah.
You lost me for a bit.
Yeah.
And now Jeff's got Mr. Echo. Anyway,
but as far as Brandon Lee as an actor, who knows? It was just too early in his career, right? Does he go down this? Does he get pigeonholed into something like Van Damme or Stallone, or does he kind of break free and have a more diverse career? Who knows? I think it was just a little too early in his career to tell like what his potential was.
And I also think, I think the movie attained a certain cult status because of that. I mean, let's face it, it probably added to the success of the film.
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
10 years later with The Dark Knight, or
right.
Like a little more than 10 years later with The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger.
Yeah. That's, you bring up a good point. Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker is a lot of Brandon Lee's Crow. A lot.
I had made a note when I had saw that. I'm like, the joke right before he kills you, right? The killing joke. I know they had already done it in the comics, before that, but yeah, it was perfect. He tells a little one-liner, a little joke, and then kills him. And I was like, yo, that's Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. Like,
and especially that scene where he's with all the mob bosses, and he does, hey, how do you make a pencil disappear or whatever? That whole thing with Michael J. White, I believe, who was in that scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
That mob scene with the Joker and that whole thing with the mob bosses was very reminiscent of Brandon's, Eric Draven being with the mob bosses later. And also the dynamic about the mob bosses, the way they were all, that whole meeting scene.
The only thing that was missing was my favorite set dressing in the whole movie, which is the cocaine and eyeballs for dinner.
Yes. The cocaine. I love that line where I don't know whether it was Top Dollar or his sister says, I think we broke her, with the dead hooker in the bed.
Yeah.
Really. And that was one of the first lines that they delivered. So they were very sinister. Daryl, let's get your thoughts on the alternate timeline with a living Brandon Lee and a non-cult movie that would be The Crow now.
Well, one, I just think he was such a charismatic person. I really see him going on. As for The Crow, I see that being still a dynamic movie today that would have resonated, because instead of him passing away, I just see him as going on to do so many. I just felt like he had the ability to be funny, I mean, right off the bat, that first kill when he's like, he throws the knife, and then he goes up to him. Victims, aren't we all? And then wham. And plus, I think he's the kind of person that could have gone action route. He could have gone romantic route, which I kind of hope he wouldn't have gone that direction. But I thought he could have been comedy, and that's why
What's
I
up,
really
Cantonese comic kid?
Comic kid.
Jeff, what's up, Jeff?
And then I think my first thought when you were talking about what other movies could he have done, I really thought Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're playing multiple characters in that movie, and I think he could have done that well. And being very athletic, very action, he could have taken that Tom Cruise role right there. And I think he would have been amazing at that. So I think he would have kept going. I don't think the Crow, the franchise, would have kept going. And one other thing I wanted to throw in there, you're talking about the CGI, which I think was amazing. Again, another rumor I heard way back in the day was that Christian Slater stepped in and did a few scenes, and they CGI'd the Crow face on there. How true is that?
Lee's stunt double, according to the interwebs, his stunt double, whose name was Chad Stahelski, was used as a stand-in, and CGI superimposed his face onto him. And those scenes where you see his back and you see him climbing where his shirt's off, all that stuff was Brandon Lee's stunt double. That wasn't him at all. I think some of the rooftop shit was also, of course, the stunt double anyway, but a lot of scenes. And again, a whole apartment murder scene that is in the beginning of the movie and then is flashback through the movie was totally rewritten, re-edited, redone to the tune of $8 million. And by the way, again, to echo what I said before, the entire budget was $23 million. Okay. And that included the $8 million. Wow. So they were squeaking in under, 16, 17 million, and Miramax had to cough up another 8 to finish it and re-edit and to do stuff with CGI and all that stuff for Brandon because of his death. Unfortunately, I think if Brandon Lee had survived, Daryl wouldn't have all those McFarlane type Crow figures. I don't think, or whoever made that stuff. Those action figures, you wouldn't probably have as many of them because of the idea that his death caused a cult type status. And here's what's funny.
They're literally called cult classics. And I don't think it would be a cult movie because of that. But
I wanted to bring up a really weird thing. In James O'Barr's 1989, he's got a little prologue before the first issue where he has printed Ordinary Nocturne, a poem by Arthur Rimbaud. Now, if anybody's familiar with Arthur Rimbaud, there was a fictional character really into Arthur Rimbaud, and there was a real person really into Arthur Rimbaud. The first person I want to bring up, who is very reminiscent of the Crow, Jim Morrison of the Doors, was an avid Arthur Rimbaud fan and was influenced by Arthur Rimbaud. Arthur Rimbaud, who was a romantic, neo-romantic poet, was very gothic, very nihilistic, very doom and gloom. Jim Morrison, big fan. Now, if you guys can't see a similarity between the Crow and Jim Morrison and Brandon Lee and Jim Morrison, well, you have to be tone deaf or blind. Now, the fictional character that was very much into Rimbaud was, of course, Eddie and the Cruisers. So Daniel might not know what the hell I'm talking about, but in the Eddie and the Cruisers, Eddie from the fictional rock band, much like Jim Morrison, but unlike Jim Morrison, he faked his death to get out of the spotlight. And it was through Arthur Rimbaud's poems and his own writings that the investigators, I don't know, it was Virginia Madsen and the guy from I don't know, famous actor, they discovered, you know, that he was faking his death. The weird ass thing is in the movie Game of Death, starring Bruce Lee, there's a scene in the movie that it's a prop gun that kills somebody or supposedly kills somebody. That's an actual thing in Bruce Lee's movie, a part of the plot. And that is how his son dies 20 years later. That's fucked up. But again, like I said, I think the death of Brandon Lee, although unfortunate and terrible and untimely, and I've watched behind the scenes videos on The Crow, I don't understand how it happened, to be honest with you. Why? I don't know how you could be using guns,
Budget,
prop guns with your main actor, point blank range. By the way, he was shot 11 feet away. You know, he was almost point blank at 11 feet. That's terrible. And the fact that that wasn't, you know, monitored or checked properly, and the behind the scenes people talking about it says routinely they had firearms people on set every day checking that sort of stuff, except that day. The main actor who played, I guess, Fun Boy, who delivered the shot, he was very, you know, people were talking almost about criminal charges against him at some point, which was, you know, a rumor, but, you know, he still had a very bad career after that and never really rebounded from that tragedy that, yes, it was an accident, but still it was by his hands. But again, the cult status, I don't think those cult classic action figures, I think there would be figures for The Crow, just like there were, but I don't think they would be so iconic. The poster's iconic. That image,
there would be no Sting at Crow.
That image is so iconic. The logo is iconic. And James Barr, even as an indie comic creator, he got a lot of cachet, not just from the movie, but because of this accident, you know? And it's sad, but I don't know. Jeff Rankin disappeared. He might be getting a new tattoo. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep us going until he possibly comes back, because I wouldn't want to end the stream with him not being here.
So I know you mentioned your favorite scene. What was your favorite scene?
Oh, so my favorite scene was definitely was the end scene in the cathedral, right? Not in the comic, but added for the movie, and you know, gave Top Dollar some more scene. But one actor we forgot to mention, and an amazing character in all this, was Tony Todd,
Candyman.
The Candyman, right. Yep. He was awesome in that. But no, the aside from, you know, that whole, you know, kill the crow, kill Eric thing. One of the behind the scenes talk about secrets of the whole thing is that they actually didn't use crows, because most of the movie was shot at night, and crows sleep at night. So the birds in the movie were actually ravens, which I thought was a crazy fun fact about it. But yeah, Michael Wincott acting his ass off in that church. he goes, "Oh, I'm a crow! Bang! I'm dead!" You know, it's like, whenever an actor, especially a character actor like that, plays it big. You know, kind of like, you know, Michael Shannon and playing General Zod, just at 11 the whole time is I love those type of scenes, especially in that kind of action movie and everything. The chase across the roof to save Sarah, and then the steeple getting hit by the lightning, and then he turns that into a weapon against him, and Yeah. And then of course the Joker fall off of the gargoyle, I mean, almost shot for shot from '89 Batman, but still found a way to make it cool, and then they have that really cool exchange on the ground that Anthony was talking about where he transfers the pain to him and stuff like that. But yeah, that abandoned church scene was my favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really love this scene with Brandon and Albright together in his living room, and they're talking, and and I am such a sap for this movie, but when he says these things will kill you, I'm just like, what's it, man? And the scene where Brandon and Sarah, he says it can't rain all the time, and she stops and look, and she's like, Eric, and he's gone. And in my mind, when I watch it now, and I watched it yesterday, my first thought was, how awful would that be if that was the last scene those two had together? I mean, that just it legit almost makes me tear up just thinking about that.
That's why I zoomed in on you.
You want to see me cry? I legit might, because I've got a little misty-eyed thinking that what if that's their last scene together, and she never acted again for like 20 some years.
Yeah.
So for me, I love those scenes. Love those two scenes.
And she was great in the movie.
Yeah. She was very capable at 13 or 14 years old.
And skateboarding in that rain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and don't eat a lot of onions on your hot dogs.
No. I noticed they were putting both ketchup and mustard on their hot dogs, which I don't know what region does that. I know a lot of Floridians do it, but
for that scene in the diner between her and Ernie Hudson, it's like she'd never eaten a sandwich before. Like she was confused by it.
Yeah, that too. You're like, wait, how does they go in there?
The scene with the eggs that she liked it over easy or whatever, that was weird too.
I was going to ask you that
the
scene
girl
in the apartment.
The girl never ate, apparently.
I wish Jeff was here for that, but did you catch in the scene in the apartment the poster she had over the couch? It was real quick in the background, but when I saw it, my jaw dropped because I'm a fan of the band and stuff like that. But it was Mike Ness from Social Distortion.
Oh, was it a Social Distortion?
Yeah, it's that iconic one where he's jumping through the air with his guitar and all that. Yeah.
Well, 1994, that probably came out in 92 or 93, that album. So, also
again, that attention to detail, right? That rock and roll element that they injected into that.
Well, again, like I hope Jeff comes back, because I want to bring up the soundtrack was so, you had The Cure, you had Stone Temple Pilots, which weren't, the Stone Temple Pilots weren't that huge at that time. But Big Empty, I think, was off their second album. Rage Against the Machine, Violent Femmes. We had Pantera, believe it or not, was on that album. I forgot that. Can't Rain.
I don't remember hearing them in the movie.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember hearing Pantera in the movie.
Yeah. And also, by the way, the club scenes, that was pretty cool.
I want to go to one of those goth clubs. You only see them in movies. They don't exist in real life, but
no, they don't. They're in all the Blade movies.
I was gonna say Blade totally ripped it off, but
yeah,
I mean, they added the element of blood, which is awesome. But
Rollins Band was in there playing a cool song called Ghost Rider. I remember liking that off the soundtrack. And of course you had The Cure. The Cure is actually there's actually a song by The Cure on the back of the volume 1 I have here, the Hanging Garden. So believe it or not, James O'Barr was a Cure fan. So when we talk about Eric Draven's wardrobe and the whole gothic thing, he was a Cure fan before he wrote the book. And he was also a fan of Jesus and Mary Chain. But you know what? The biggest thing, who never really survived all these years, is the band Helmet. who had a really good song called Milk Toast on the album. And Helmet, I see them every couple years, you know, doing tours and whatever, but they're a really good band. And a little Helmet trivia. Their original bassist left about 10 years ago, and Jason Newsted from Metallica was actually playing for Helmet. And then what's funny is Frankie Bello from Anthrax also was playing for Helmet for a while. And Frankie Bello from Anthrax, little metal, if any metalheads are watching, Frankie Bello is a notorious finger player, never uses a pick. But when he joined Helmet, he learned how to play with a pick because Helmet songs were so staccato and syncopated compared to Anthrax music that he started playing with a pick. And of course, my nerd segue is Anthrax. Of course, I Am the Law, Judge Dredd, you know, and huge Stephen King, huge comic book fans. And they have a new graphic novel out, which is, I don't know, whatever, Among the Living, the graphic novel, because they haven't been touring lately. So they're making money off of graphic novels. But hey, I don't think Jeff is coming back.
I think Alex Ross has done a lot of album covers.
Alex
for
Ross
Anthrax.
Alex Ross has done about 4 or 5 covers for Anthrax.
Yeah. I learned that because one of my friends was telling me that. I was like, really? I did not know that.
Yes. Yeah, Alex Ross does even the last 3 or 4. In fact, he did a cover for the graphic novel. So he does a lot of work for Anthrax. They're big fans, and they're also big comic geeks. Anthrax, the guys, especially Scott Ian.
Yeah, Scott Ian, yeah.
He's got Spider-Man and, you know, Spider-Man tattoos all over and huge into Marvel and all that stuff. Growing up in the 70s, like me in New York City, you know, when you weren't playing music, you were hiding comic books in your backpack because if anyone saw you with them, they would beat you up. So that was the deal. But anyway, we're going on an hour and a half. You know, hey, everybody in the chat, Matt, Jeff, Captain Comics, everybody in there. I want to thank everybody for stopping by and chatting with us. Tonight we talked about The Crow. We talked about Brandon Lee. We talked about the influence on modern action movies. We talked a little bit about the cult status and what the world would be like if Brandon Lee had survived. My closing thoughts is that, you know what? I don't think The Crow would have been as successful, and I don't think we'd be talking about it with as much reverence as we have. I know that Daryl would not have any hack/tribute covers behind him. Why don't you show that off there? What is that, a 9.8?
9.8, yeah.
Yeah, that's a hack/tribute cover. Brandon Lee was The Crow featured in a hack/ book?
It's actually The Crow hack/.
I got you. Tim Seeley, and here's a little aside. Tim Seeley, the author creator of Hack and Slash, will be at the Daytona Beach Comic Convention, which is September 18th and 19th, I believe. Wild Mercury Comics and myself will be set up at that show. I will be set up within striking distance of Tim Seeley, the creator of Hack/ and the guy that worked that book. Hack/ has a whole bunch of licensed stuff. He's got him teaming up with Ash from Army of Darkness. He's got Hack/ doing a whole series with Chucky. So Tim Seeley is really into the horror genre, and he loves getting properties that no one's doing anything with. I believe sporadically they're still making Crow comics here and there. I don't know whether Dynamite or one of those companies has the property. It might be IDW. It might be Dark Horse. I don't know. I think Dark Horse is the last company to own the license. I know that they put out a lot of the graphic novels and the collected volumes, but I could be mistaken. But I hope I'm going to close the night by saying too, I don't ever want to see a new Crow movie. I don't want to see Jason Momoa as the Crow. I don't want to see the guy from Creed as the first African American Crow. I don't want to see a female Crow. I don't want to see a trans dwarf Crow. I don't want to see anybody as the Crow but Brandon Lee. So, Brandon, if you're listening, if you come out of the grave and play the Crow again, I'm all good with that. But you know what? And here's something I have to say. You know how we talked about how they made not one, not two, but 3 sequels that all sucked? They should have left that alone. Okay? One and done. Keep the integrity of the movie. Despite what happened, despite how much money it made or didn't make, there are certain movies that are so iconic and so good that they should be left alone. There's a lot of movies like that. Hard Target, same thing. Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, same thing.
Wow.
Wayne's World should have only been 1. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure should have been 1 and done. You know, you can learn a lot of history from that first movie. That second movie is terrible. Third movie, I don't even know what it's about. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen the third one either.
But the point is, most movies that aren't built on franchise and money and sales and action figures, they are, if they're good enough to stand on their own, they should stand on their own. And then they become cult classics. And they get talked about by a bunch of guys who are 50 years old and guys in their late 40s. And then some guy with his brick wall and who's probably in his late 30s or early 20s. I can't tell. His lack of hair just totally I don't know how old he is. But anyway, the point is,
throw a curveball at us.
The point is, he's actually 16 and he's in his mother's basement right now. No.
I'm 62 years old. I just drank a lot, so I preserved myself.
Daniel
in the maiden down by the river.
Daniel is actually a 70-year-old Asian man.
That's it.
And you know, he eats a lot of rice and green tea, and that's why he looks like that. Mm-hmm. Now, in the opposite, Daryl is 23. And he looks like he was rode hard and put away wet.
Yeah, he looks an easy 73.
Daryl, how's that arm wound doing? Did it heal up yet? Look at that. Daniel. Daryl is playing disc golf, right?
Disc golf injury.
And he fell and ripped his arm apart, right?
No, I threw a disc and hit a tree.
Your arm hit the tree?
Ask me how the tree is doing.
Okay, well, let me explain something. I thought Daryl, when I was on a YouTube stream with him on Sunday, I thought he got a Deadpool tattoo on his arm. I thought that was a Deadpool tattoo. Because it was red.
I think he's that way.
Yeah. Actually, that looks like Deadpool's face. But anyway, I think
it looks like Hawaii. You got the big island over here.
I think you should put some A&D ointment on that. Other than that, hey man, it's been a great broadcast. I don't know when I'm going to do another movie review. I think next week I'm going to be getting into comics. I think I might be talking about the legendary Image founder, Rob Liefeld. If anybody wants to join me, I know Daniel will. You like Rob Liefeld, Daryl?
Yeah, at times.
All right. Well, you're not invited.
Depends on what day it is.
Daniel and I are actually going to see Rob Liefeld live in concert in a few weeks.
The Rob Liefeld.
He is doing a signing here in Florida. Actually, he's doing 4 of them. And we bought VIP passes to go hang with him and take pictures and stuff.
I'm going to throw this out there. He should be paying you.
Yeah, I know. It should be paying the Misty America, oh my God, creator, who actually, by the way, swiped 2 of his panels from his Bad Blood graphic novel in issue number 4 because I like them. But anyway, so there you go. Jeff Rankin is not rejoining us. I'm very sorry about that. As I said, I think his tattoo artist was calling to finish his lion tattoo or to give him that tramp stamp. Daniel was just drinking out of his potted plant. And
That's right.
And Daryl turned his hat around. What kind of t-shirt you wearing tonight, Daryl?
Today we got some DC Most Wanted. Let's climb up so everybody can see.
Very nice.
There we go.
What do you think about the big story that was in the news items today? Has anyone seen the Harley Quinn animated show?
Yeah.
Daryl, you big fan? It's a really good show, right? The animated show?
I thought it was all right. I'm just not a big fan of Kelly Cuoco's voice. But,
oh, okay. See, I like it. But anyway, in season 3 that they're doing right now that's going to air, some crazy variety magazine or some news Google service decided to interview the people that create the show, and they were talking about the things that they get away with on the show. Well, they decided for beautiful clickbait conversation that there was a scene in the show that was written in where Batman was performing oral sex on Catwoman, and the people at DC said, we can't show that. Now, Batman can kill people and curse on the show and all kinds of stuff, but he's not allowed to go down on Catwoman. Now, I
lick the kitty.
I understand that because they were saying that that is not the branding we want for our person that we sell bed sheets and pillows and plushie toys for, and toys in Walmart. Now, I understand it. Now, why any children should be watching the Harley Quinn show, I don't know.
Nope.
But better, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and every geek podcast in the world, so I decided to end with it, is talking about the fact that Batman doesn't go down on Catwoman, and they're treating it like Batman is a real person. And trying to figure out why they wouldn't want women to get pleasure from Batman, or calling Batman less of a man because he won't do that, or idolizing the 60s Batman actor Adam West, who was known to engage in orgies all the time with Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler. Now, don't you guys think that that's kind of absurd? First of all, it's a animated character. Secondly, Batman is not real, nor is Catwoman. These are fictional characters. And C, maybe they shouldn't be showing that in a cartoon. And D, who the fuck cares? But E, the bigger discussion was feminists were then criticizing the fact that if Ivy and Harlequin have oral sex, it's okay because A, they're women, and B, they're villains. So, boys and girls, I want to end this YouTube stream by saying very, 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 and by the way, this is not for kids, very seriously, oral sex is only good for villains. Heroes should only engage in missionary. With that said, I want to end the broadcast and say, until next time, bye-bye.